Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there, having yourselves a fantastic weekend, and I certainly appreciate you folks tuning in this morning as we figure out what's going to happen weather-wise for your Sunday to get you guys going. We're going to give you a very detailed update on the tropics also for the first half of this video, and then the second half of the video we will discuss your forecast for your Sunday. So there's a lot to talk about out there in the tropics. It is peak hurricane season, and it looks the part out there for sure. We got Tropical Storm Nigel now, which we can call Nigel. It has been dubbed the name. So we got that Tropical Storm Nigel. We still got Margot, but the chances are very, very, very high that Nigel is not going to impact anybody but the fish out in the ocean. But there's two areas I want to discuss outside of Nigel. There's an area that could emerge off a stalled frontal boundary, and then there's a wave coming off the coast of Africa into the tropical Atlantic that has the chance to become a named storm also. Okay, that actually has an area of interest dubbed on it. The one right into this region that I want to discuss does not, but could sometime today or tomorrow. So we're going to break it all down for you folks. Is there any immediate threats to be concerned about? No, but there could become a threat sometime in the next 5 to 15 days. I know that's very broad, but stick with me. We'll talk about the scenarios and we'll break this down for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, guys. I've not answered the comments from the last 2 or 3 videos. I just like to have a lot of time to really read them and not just breeze over them. So that's why sometimes I lag to get to them, especially when we have a lot more comments on some of the videos. So please don't think I haven't read your prayer request or acknowledged your comments. I will get to them, I promise you, this afternoon. So if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it, and I promise you others will pray over it also. So let's take a look at what's going on out there. Let's get our little clicker. Hopefully it's working for us, and it is. We got Nigel right here, which is an actual dubbed tropical storm. It has a name. It's Nigel. We still got Margot right here. Margot will continue to spin around in one general area because it's blocked to its north by high pressure. So Margot would just kind of spin around. So the next thing we watch, well, there's 2 areas to watch. We watch a wave that's going to come off Africa into the eastern tropical Atlantic, which is this region, and we will see if it will try to develop. And I'll be honest with you, most model guidance shows this developing sometime in the medium to long term. And then you see how cleared out this area is right here over the U.S. Man, that's an ugly check. But anyways, that is basically the air mass behind a cold front that is digging down into the eastern U.S. and southeastern U.S. Okay, we're going to have a rainy day across the southeast today. We'll talk about that here in a second. But after that, some dry air pushes through. And think of this as the cold front. This is not exactly where it is, but just think of it as the cold front. This will eventually get placed maybe somewhere into here where it could potentially stall out, maybe a little bit further southeast. And if it stalls, depending on where it stalls out, you can have just basically plumes of moisture, showers and storms that form along this frontal boundary, sort of in this area or just south of the boundary. And sometimes this forms over the open water, like over the Gulf Stream off the coast of the southeast, or maybe over the Gulf of Mexico. We call this homegrown activity. And so that could happen sometime later this week, and you get little pieces of energy out here, basically broad circulation, and eventually this develops into a full-fledged, maybe tropical depression, develops a low-level circulation, and you can get a quick tropical storm that basically seems like it develops out of nowhere. So that's an area in the shorter term that we need to watch. This area out here is probably going to be something we need to watch for the long haul. It's not going to be any concern whatsoever, may never be for a while. So that's what's going on right now in the tropics. I hope that made sense for you folks. But we'll talk about what's going on with these features right now. We have Tropical Storm Nigel. It's a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and we still got Margot, which once was a hurricane, now just a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. And we got Lee. Lee is kind of chugging its way through southeast Canada. Let me know how you guys have fared up there in southeast Canada, how you would compare this to other tropical systems. I would love to know. But this is still bringing impacts for you folks. So definitely hoping the best up there, hoping it has not got too terribly bad. I was kind of skimming over some comments, and some of you folks were saying there was a lot of people without power out on Nova Scotia. So hope you guys are doing well up there. And then we got this area of interest that we will discuss here in a second, but has a 30% chance to develop in the next 7 days. And this is the wave I was just discussing. I would not be surprised one bit they put a yellow area somewhere right in here. Okay, sometime probably today. Maybe not, but I have a strong feeling that that's going to end up happening. We'll watch, and if they do, we will discuss even more and even higher confidence on it in this evening's video, which I will have. I will give you an update on Margot. Margot expected to just kind of loop around out here. We won't be talking about Margot for a while, but Margot will be with us for a while. Could weaken back into a tropical depression, then back to a storm, then back to a tropical depression. But Margot's not bothering a whole lot of people but these islands right here. But even for you folks, it's not going to be a big deal. But just kind of spinning around out here. Nigel, now forecast to become a major hurricane again. For you folks that's been tuning in for a while, most of you probably know what that M stands for. That's a Category 3 or higher hurricane, what we consider a major hurricane. All right, but this is the latest cone from Nigel. Nigel will continue to gain strength, gain latitude, and is not even expected to even come close to threatening Bermuda anymore. All right, another way to look at this is Zoom Earth. Forecast to become a hurricane maybe sometime tonight. Will strengthen at a pretty decent clip, become a Category 2 hurricane probably tomorrow night, and then a major hurricane by maybe Tuesday afternoon. This could possibly not become a major hurricane. It's saying it'll become right at the cusp of a major hurricane, which is 115 miles per hour or higher. But either way, Nigel is not going to threaten anybody but the fish out in the ocean. Could this, do something crazy and maybe, move further west? I mean, anything can happen, right? But man, nothing is pointing to that happening. Nothing. So that's an update on Nigel. Nigel will just be a powerful hurricane that looks pretty to look at out here in the Atlantic Ocean, really. So let's talk about more in the near term first, which is something we need to watch for around the we're off the coast of the southeast, maybe the northeast Gulf of Mexico. So let's talk about this. We'll go through all the model guidance here. Let's talk about the GFS first. All right, so we'll move here in time. We're getting into our Monday. Okay, here comes the front that clears the southeast. You notice there's hardly no green in this area. That's because you got dry, stable air. And then notice kind of all the rain that kind of chills right into this area. Okay, you see how it's kind of hovering right over South Florida. That's where the front has not came through. So everybody along the frontal boundary and south of it stays at a moist atmosphere. Now this boundary could pivot back north, pivot back southeast. Wherever it just kind of stalls out is where we can get energy to form. So we're getting into Wednesday morning, and here comes the moisture starting to creep a little bit further north. We're getting into Thursday afternoon. This coming Thursday afternoon, here it goes. You see this area of green and yellow and areas of red? That is our tropical moisture starting to organize. You're probably at this point getting some energy beginning to try to take advantage of the warm waters of the Atlantic. It could potentially be either side of Florida. And this continues, and here it is. It pops an L right here, an area of low pressure. We're getting into Friday morning. Based off the GFS, Friday morning, I mean, this is right up the road. It's not like we're like next Wednesday or something. This is this Friday, September the 22nd. All of a sudden, we got a full-fledged tropical depression developing right off the east coast, the northeast coast of Florida. All right, this kind of just dwindles away now in the latest GFS. It takes this center of low pressure and just kind of pushes it back over Florida. But it does bring a big plume of moisture into the Georgia and Carolina coastline Friday evening. All right, and here it is. Look at this big area of moisture. Could bring a soggy weekend next weekend for the Carolinas. We don't know this for sure, but here's the low pressure. It kind of dwindles over land, so you notice those millibars begin to get higher, which means it's a weakening storm. But this will just kind of drift around and then dissipate because it gets over land. Okay, but you can see when it's over water, look at it strengthening. See how that number's dropping? And then it makes a landfall. It's like a depression, weak tropical storm. The next name in the hurricane list is the O name, which is Ophelia. The next name after that It's Philippe. I think is the way that you say it, Philippe. So those are the next two names. I really think that, we could have Ophelia sometime in the next 10 days. Could be sooner. Okay, but that's the GFS run off this. This is late this week into this weekend. All right, it's not super concerning, but it looks like a tropical system that is classic homegrown activity. We'll get more detailed on what that means here in a second. I've kind of already explained it to a degree, but I will give you a better explanation on it here in a second. But European shows this also too. Front clears. You still got a lot of lingering moisture down there in South Florida. And look at the moisture beginning to creep a little bit further north. We're getting into Thursday morning, the 21st, first day of fall. Okay, we're getting into Friday morning. Here it goes. You see that L just popped up. But in general, just look at this big area of moisture right here, right off the coast of the southeast. We even got moisture tucked into the northeast areas of the Gulf of Mexico. And this is just one big broad spin out here. Develops that low pressure Friday evening and just kind of dwindles around out here. Never really can figure out where it wants to go. But eventually, it just kind of dissipates. But there is an area of low pressure, of spin, right here off the coast of the southeast, just like the GFS, the Canadian model. What does the Canadian model show? Same thing, guys. It's some great model agreement. This is Friday morning, the 22nd. Develops that low pressure right here off that stalled frontal boundary. And check it out. The Canadian model wants to develop this into almost a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure system, and this makes a technical landfall into the eastern areas of North Carolina as we're getting into Saturday night sometime. Now, are we talking a major hurricane? No. And I don't want to assume any scenarios here at all because we've seen some crazy things happen with these kind of setups. But I would not be surprised at all if this becomes a named storm. Not one bit. I'm not calling it. I'm not calling it one bit. But this has your classic look at energy getting stalled off the coast of the southeast and developing at least a big plume of tropical moisture. So that's the Canadian. We'll look at one more model. Let's look at the overnight run of the Icon. The Icon can do pretty good. And the Icon does a really good job of showing this cold front draped over this entire region. We're getting to that time of the year, getting later in September where these cold fronts make it a little bit further south. Okay, but here it is. As that boundary weakens, leftover energy, look at that spin. You can actually see it in motion. See that little bit of spin that you're seeing there? Here it is, big plume of tropical moisture Friday afternoon. And that day, there it is, bang, pops off that L and then kind of does what the Canadian does. All right, makes landfall sometime Saturday evening as just a tropical wave, tropical depression, maybe weak tropical storm. Okay, so all four of those models show something. A great way to look at this is 850 millibar vortices. So this shows energy about a mile above our heads. And this does a great job of indicating a spin in the low levels. Okay, so we're getting into Wednesday, getting into Thursday. See these little pieces of energy. So all these areas in yellow, think of that as just energy. We'll talk more on this in the winter months because it means a lot in the winter months too. But the more vibrant you see these colors, you see this area right here, you start to get these kind of orange, almost red colors. That's the stronger basically the rotation, the circulation, the stronger the energy. Think of it like that. And here it is. We're getting to late Thursday night. You got a piece of energy that really fires off. And this is the GFS, which matches exactly where that L was. It's the low pressure. And here it is. You see these wind barbs kind of spinning around like this, like that, and like that. There it is. There's that rotation. And there's a little system trying to get going. Now, if this is to stay off the coast of the southeast, this will definitely turn to a tropical storm. But we don't know how it gets pushed one way or the other. Remember what we talked about. Stronger storms can fight to steer their own selves much better. They want to gain latitude. But a weaker storm like this is a perfect example of a weaker storm that gets steered very easily, pushed around very easily by kind of lower steering currents in the atmosphere. So that's why this thing just kind of drifts around, never really wants to take a straight path. And eventually that piece of energy, whether it's a depression, weak tropical storm, makes that landfall into North Florida off the East Coast. Okay, none of these scenarios look scary or anything like that. They really don't. But you always got to watch this. A great way to look at this, guys, is dew points. And for you fall weather fans, this is I'm going to talk about this again when we talk about the forecast for today. Big moist air mass right over the southeast, but this gets cleared out by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning. Even the panhandle of Florida, North Florida, waking up to a beautiful air mass. And here comes the dry air. But I want you to look down here in Florida, how you guys stay in a very tropical air mass. This is the boundary right into here. And if you see it right into here, this is the cold front boundary. Dry air, beautiful air right over this region. These are not temperatures, these are dew points, indicating anything below 60-degree dew points is pretty much air that is not humid. Okay, very dry air in place. And then the lower that number goes, the even drier the air gets, to the point where you need chapstick. So you got a lot of high-end moisture still hanging out down here in Florida. So we get this off your screen and we keep this going. But eventually, look how this plume of moisture, and the great news is this dry air hangs around for a while. I really think this week coming up for like the southeast will be your best week yet as far as moving into fall-like weather. But look how this big moist plume of air begins to move back in, takes over that dry air, and this is your tropical air mass showing up on the GFS. And so basically that stalled frontal boundary separating moist and dry air eventually sparks some energy, and then it basically erodes the rest of that boundary, and you get a big area of moist air that takes back over for the weekend for most of the southeast. So that's another great way to look at it. I hope that makes sense. Homegrown activity. It's basically when you get a cold front, it stalls off the coast of the southeast or somewhere over the southeast. And if it stalls over water, sometimes those showers and storms that get sparked because of that moist air mass south of the boundary can develop sometimes over water, and eventually clusters of showers and storms can develop into a full-fledged tropical system. Happens. All right. So let's talk about the area of interest, not a threat, area of interest out here in the tropical Atlantic. It says a tropical wave is forecast to move off the west coast of Africa by midweek. So technically it has not done it yet. But when it does, it could develop somewhere in this region. Has a 30% chance to develop. Not very high, but if model guidance continues to show support for something developing, I imagine this will go to a code orange, which is a 40% chance to a 60% chance by the time we do the evening video this evening. So this is the next area to watch, and really you look at the model guidance from this, and we'll start this off Wednesday afternoon. Here comes this wave. You can see it. It's a pretty stout tropical wave, and by the time we get into the central areas of the tropical Atlantic, this thing is turning into a named storm. Will it be Ophelia? Will it be Philippe? It kind of depends on if that area that we just talked about off the coast of the southeast somehow tries to develop into something. But either way, we watch this to become a named storm sometime this weekend potentially. And then look at it. It's not turning north like Nigel did. It's going east to west. And I'll talk about why here in a second. But we're getting about 10 days out, and we'll stop it because there's no point in going any further in this. All right, 10 days out, we're still talking about this. And this is a Category 1 hurricane looking like it's heading, right towards the Caribbean islands. That's not a forecast. It's just what the GFS shows 10 days out from right now. So this is what you call a low rider, at least in the medium to long term. We don't know what it's going to do after 10 days. We don't know what it's going to do after 5 days. But we need to watch this one. We need to watch this one for sure. All right, you look at the European, watching for the same area down here. Here comes this stout tropical wave off the coast of Africa. We're getting into Thursday, getting into Friday, and here it is, getting into Friday evening. By Friday evening, we have a named storm. This is a tropical storm. Develops a tick faster than the GFS. And by the time we get a week out from today, this is a full-fledged Category 1, Category 2 hurricane out here in the central Atlantic. Okay? But it gains strength so fast, it begins to gain that latitude much quicker. Okay, it fights against weak ridging. There is ridging on top of this, but it's weak. All right, and by the time, guys, we are 10 days out, this is a major hurricane. out here. Again, we're dealing with another major hurricane. All right, this is 10 days from now, but it is starting to inch its way north, but it's 10 days out. We don't know what this is going to do because it hasn't even developed. It's still over a landmass in Africa. So the reason this is looking like it, whatever develops, it might go more due west instead of northwest and then ultimately north, is because this is Nigel, the leftover of Nigel, getting on top of that ridge. And then the ridge will try to build back over this blue blob right here, which is our area of interest. That could be Ophelia or Philippe, okay? And then what we've learned here is, and if you're a first-time viewer, I'll explain it again. The area in blue, that is low pressure, okay? The area in orange you see on here, kind of the warmer colors, that is high pressure. The flow goes around both of these features different. Okay, both act as steering currents for these tropical systems for any energy out here. Okay, here it is. We know that the flow, this is pretty weak ridging. You see how it's like a lighter shade of orange? This indicates weaker ridging. Okay, but we still know the flow goes like this around the ridging. Okay, so the flow around this tropical system obviously is like this, just like in the northern hemisphere it always is. All right, so we'll keep this going here. We'll get this off your screen. And as you can tell, all right, thought I had a cat beside me. That high pressure pretty much stays over this system. It's very weak, but it's over the system. Okay, and we continue. And that's why ultimately it's moving more so east to west. Now, this is the Euro. The Euro begins to get a much stronger system, much quicker than the GFS. The Euro says, all right, this is not going to cut it for me. This is very weak. I can turn up against this. I can fight against this. So that's exactly what it does. It is under the influence of ridging, but it's so weak, lighter shades of orange, that it's able to start to turn north. Okay, and that's exactly what it does. All right, now if you look at the GFS, okay, same thing. Here it is. Here's our blue blob down here, which could be a named storm sometime later this week. All right, ridging on top of it, and this is going to pop. We're going to have to get this back off. And just like I was mentioning, that ridging is making this system kind of stay low in latitude. Okay, keep this going. Let's get this going again. Ridging right on top of the storm. Now, it looks like ridging is building right on the north to northeast side of this storm. Okay, this system, unless it was very strong right here, isn't going to just kind of stop and then make an abrupt turn north and get on and try to get on this side of the ridge. That, and just the fact that it can't fight against these currents because the flow around this ridge is like this. Okay, so it's not going to just kind of do like that because it will be fighting against these currents. So it's being influenced by this ridging to the north and northeast. I'm sorry, north and northwest. I'm sorry. So this is continuing to kind of chug this way. Now, what happens with this feature? After you keep this going in time, it does begin to weaken. And as it weakens, at the same time, the GFS has whatever name storm this is getting stronger, and then it finds a weakness right there. Look at that wide open weakness. All right, so you keep this going, and this is an easy route out to sea. I mean, very easy. So it's something we need to watch. But guys, we don't know what kind of ridging will be in place, what kind of troughing will be in place 10 days out. So we still need to watch this one. Okay, that's it on the tropics. I hope that helps you guys. Now let's talk about what's happening in our neck of the woods here in the U.S. And let's get this back off your screen. Beautiful air mass digging down from this upper trough. You see these areas kind of in the duller colors, especially right into here. That is our dry air surging down. You see these areas and kind of the whiter colors right into here. That is our moist air mass. But this beautiful dry air will replace this, but we're going to have to deal with a day of pretty soggy weather across the southeast and the eastern U.S. before drier air eventually moves in overnight tonight into tomorrow. So that's pretty much the driving feature today and today's weather. We're going to look at what's falling out there right now. Got a little bit of rain shower activity moving into western Washington state, and you got a lot of rain flying around out here, especially in the Apps region. You guys are picking up some nice beneficial rain after getting very dry late summer, picking up some nice rain. Sometimes those very dry conditions causes a lot of heat stress on these trees, and sometimes it can ruin the fall foliage for certain areas. And it's really good. There was a fear of that happening, especially in Virginia. But you guys have been picking up a lot of rain over the last few days and picking up some more rain this morning. Big plume of rain making its way through the western Carolinas. Rain moving out of eastern Georgia. Some rain right now going on in the Panhandle, Florida. Got some rain right off the southern coastline of Texas. And this rain will continue to chug its way east and northeast throughout the day, where you guys will be dealing with some more rain in southern New England again by the time you get into this afternoon. Storm Prediction Center, only area we really need to watch for severe weather is the extreme eastern areas of the Carolinas and then areas of Georgia right in here. You got a marginal risk of some severe weather. Some gusty winds is possible. That's about it, honestly. Southeast today, this area of rain will continue to kind of fly through the Carolinas and through areas of eastern Georgia, and will deliver a lot of rain, I think, as it makes its way to the eastern Carolinas later today, and will kind of begin to kind of take advantage of maybe the heating of the day. And I really think one area to watch is eastern South Carolina today. Could get some big time storms. So if you're doing anything like from Florence to Orangeburg, down to Hilton Head, Beaufort, up to Charleston, up to Myrtle Beach, eventually into the eastern areas of North Carolina, definitely be aware of some storms today. Just some tropical downpours really anywhere in Florida today is possible. Sorry, I don't really get very specific on Florida. It's just you're just still in that time of the year where really they can pop up anywhere. But definitely just be aware of just the pop up. And then by the time we get into this evening, the showers and storm activity begins to make it all the way to the coastline and clear off the coast, but you're still going to be dealing with some rain, I think, as we're waking up tomorrow for the Norfolk area, eastern North Carolina. Definitely going to be a rainy night for the Delmarva region for sure. But you guys could definitely see a good bit of rain in these areas. We'll get a little bit closer, and here it is. Look at this big area of showers and storms down here near Savannah. Down here in the eastern section, the I-95 corridor that runs through South Carolina. Very stormy around dinner time tonight. These will make their way through eastern North Carolina, through Virginia, throughout the afternoon, evening hours, and just a very soggy Sunday. Could get a lot of rain in certain areas too. Could get some kind of elevation-driven enhanced rain here in the higher elevations of South Carolina and North Carolina right into here. A couple inches of rain could fall. It's already raining very heavily in those regions right now. Outer Banks could get 1 to 2 inches of rain. I mean, down here along the coastal regions of South Carolina and Georgia, a lot of rain could fall today, a couple inches. So we go up here to the northeast. Raining in West Virginia right now. Will rain most of the morning, most of the afternoon. This rain will begin to take over eastern PA, Maryland, the Delmarva region, northern Virginia. Could have some lingering showers and downpours over here in Ohio, northern areas of Kentucky. And then just some light to moderate rain begins to take over most of New England throughout the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. I think we'll wake up to a pretty soggy morning up here. As this is just one of those cold fronts, troughs that is really digging much further southeast. So when this happens sometimes the dry air makes it to our folks in the southeast before it does in the northeast, and that is the case with this. But you're waking up tomorrow morning to a very soggy start in the Delmarva, New Jersey, New York City, and southern New England. You're waking up to some rain tomorrow for sure. The beautiful thing about this is you're going to be dealing with the moisture return. I mean, you're waking up to some cooler conditions in southern New England now. The humidity will spike overnight, but then will turn around and more dry air will push right through. So, I mean, look at all these lower dew points taking over the entire region. Beautiful week setting up with drier air. This will lead to lower temperatures in the morning. Rain out here for the south central U.S. A very quiet day today. Nothing really going on. Enjoy your day. Should be a little bit cooler for you folks, but really nothing going on today down here in the south central U.S. North central U.S., same kind of deal, dealing with some rain showers in the Chicago region. We could get a little bit of a low that's spinning around some downpours. I mean, it's possible even in northern areas of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, extreme southern sections of Michigan. These could be spinning around out here. But everybody else, nothing. Beautiful day. Enjoy the day. Western U.S., same kind of deal, guys. Not a whole lot going on. Little system could bring some enhanced rain showers into western Washington State later tonight. But outside of that, nothing to speak on out here either. Enjoy your weather. Eastern and central U.S., there will be a plume of cooler temperatures. In Pennsylvania, some areas might not get out the 50s, especially these higher elevations in Pennsylvania and Maryland and northern VA and West Virginia. You will definitely have a cool fall-like Sunday in this portion right here. Everybody else, it's not going to be influenced by showers and clouds and rain all day. We'll warm into the 70s, maybe even some 80s. Cooler day in the southeast, but definitely not that fall crisp air that you think I'm talking about. It's just going to be very moist, kind of damp. But temperatures won't be that high. Very beautiful air mass over this portion of the country, Ohio Valley, Midwest, upper Midwest. Very fall-like mid-September day. Nice up here in the Northeast, just some clouds and rain though. Warmer down here in the deep South, but nothing unbearable. Just, upper 80s, low 90s. And then temperatures out west, pretty much around average. Nothing totally crazy. Warming up here in Montana though, in the high plains, well into the 80s. Definitely a warm day. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and have a fantastic Sunday.